William Roache is a national treasure. He's Ken Barlow, for goodness sake.
I'm going to be interviewed by the one and only Piers Morgan, who, I don't know what it is about Piers, but he always strikes me as being a naughty boy. I'm about to turn 80, so I've done a few things, but I don't think I've done anything quite as in-depth about my life as this is.
He's suffered bankruptcy and depression, the tragedy of losing a child, of losing a wife very early.
I'll have to take the rough with the smooth, and Piers won't let me get away with anything else.
He's the most famous soap star in history. And tonight, he's all mine.
Here I go.
William Roache.
That is the name.
Bill. And people call you Bill Roache,
yeah,
right?
Please do, yeah.
Or Ken.
No, Bill.
You hold the Guinness World Record as the world's longest-serving soap actor.
Yeah.
Officially.
No,
he's number
just,
one.
Well, not
he's the
just
top dog.
Thank you. Not just soap, it's drama serial.
Ah, OK. So you don't like the word soap, do you?
No.
Why don't you like it?
Because it's a derogatory term. When we started, we were kitchen sink drama, cutting edge, highly respected. Not a soap.
Have you spent 50 years being pissed off about this?
Yeah, well, for the first 15 years, we were not called a soap, and then suddenly we were. And I tried to sort of rectify it and keep putting it, but I have to accept, I understand now what people mean and what they understand by it, so I reluctantly accept it.
How similar or different are you to Ken Barlow?
Well, in the way of mannerisms and what you see, that is me. And I don't learn anything particularly from Ken, but all I have to do is, like Ken, and get inside his head and believe that what the writers have written for him, he would actually do.
What are his great strengths and great weaknesses, do you think?
I think his strength is that he's a man you could go to for advice, and he would give you, to the best of his intentions, good advice. He's a reliable chap. His weaknesses are, don't trust your daughter with him.
Which, as we will discover, Bill, has been a bit of an issue for you as well over the years.
Oh, yeah, well, yes.
You have been a bit of a naughty boy, haven't you?
I have, yes, I don't deny that.
Are you going to be confessing all to me tonight?
If you wish.
I do wish.
OK. You're very charming in the way you go about it.
This is incredible. You are, on April the 25th,
Yeah.
going to be 80 years old.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. You're very kind. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you're in fantastic nick for 80, I've got to say.
Well, I don't feel 80. I really don't. And the body doesn't quite do what it used to do.
Well, in your case, it's probably just as well, Bill.
I think we're deteriorating rapidly.
Let's take a look back at your amazing career spanning the last 5 decades.
My name is Ken.
Get out!
Ken Barlow.
Well, thanks very much for the character reference.
TV legend Bill Roache has been treading the cobbles of Coronation Street since it started in 1960, making him the UK's longest-serving soap star.
Bill is Ken Barlow, Britain's biggest TV star. It's as simple as that.
He's a remarkable man. He has taught me so much, not about acting or just about life.
Sometimes I stand on set and I have to pinch myself that I'm standing with Bill Roache.
Bill brought 21-year-old university student Ken Barlow to life in Coronation Street's first ever episode.
Sauce, can you?
No, no, thank you.
Oh, but I got it specially. You always loved it when you was little.
Did I?
Ken was all the grammar school boys that I've known who'd done well and who'd equipped themselves to rise socially. And, of course, all of that was showing in Ken's very first episode.
What's that snooty expression for, then? What's snooty expression?
Over the last half a century, Bill has taken his alter ego Ken from lofty lefty to elderly statesman.
Age doesn't lessen your entitlement to happiness. Far from it.
Bill is like a template for us all to have seen him grow through the 50 years. It represents the British man.
He's like our last link, if you like, with the original black and white, gritty realism of the 60s, the early Coronation Street.
Right, don't just stand there, woman. Get me lunch.
Hey!
Along the way, Bill, as Ken, has pulled a lot of punches and taken a few.
Just the kind of intelligent reaction I'd expect from a loud-mouthed, beer-swilling moron like you.
And then, of course, there's been all those leading ladies.
Not bad for two old codgers.
Ken Barlow is a man who was led round by his own libido.
Deirdre, Martha.
He was married to Val in the early days.
All in all, 51 years has covered 4 marriages and over 20 girlfriends.
I don't love you. Love never even crossed my mind.
Not bad for an actor who originally signed up for just 13 episodes. In real life, Bill has had his own personal dramas too. There was the tragic loss of a baby daughter, shocked death of his second wife, and bankruptcy after defending his reputation in court.
I don't think anyone should ever have to go through what we have been through to justify our good name.
But there have been triumphs too.
The award for special achievement in British soap goes to William Roach.
For over half a century, Bill Roach has been a constant presence in Britain's living rooms, but has his job for life meant he hasn't fulfilled his potential as an actor?
I'm sure Bill wakes up some mornings and has to think, hang on a minute, who am I today?
He stayed longer than I think anybody has ever stayed in a series, but I think it was the right thing for Bill.
He's practically got a 9 to 5 in the acting world, which is unheard of.
The fact that he's chosen to be a great actor in Coronation Street is his life's choice. Does that come with regret? Everything has to have a bit of regret. Will he deserve the biggest round of applause possible at the end of it all? 100% he will.
It's a really fascinating question to put to you, isn't it? If you had the time again, given your obvious acting prowess, have you ever had regrets that you didn't go off and...
I don't regret for 1 minute what I've done and what has happened, but I have a curiosity that had I not stayed in the street, I was very ambitious and did work very hard at it, what would have happened? So it's only a curiosity, but I love Coronation Street. I'm very proud of it. I get full job satisfaction from it, still do.
Over 8,000 actors have come and gone in the time you've been on Coronation Street.
There's been some wonderful people who started out in the street.
We saw a young Joanna Lumley.
Yes, we saw a young
Looking
Joanna
very
Lumley.
beautiful.
Very beautiful, wonderful person.
Did you and Joanna ever, you know, any monkey business? Bill?
Piers, I was warned about you. To me, you're like a naughty schoolboy. Joanna Lumley was a very lovely person. I was extremely fond of her, and we were very close.
I mean, the question I would say is, if not, why not?
Oh, move on. That's another question.
What reaction do you get in the street?
You're recognised pretty well all the time, but by and large, it's nice. They just say, how Deirdre, you know, or this sort of comment like that.
They all call you Ken when people see you?
Yeah, mostly, but not so... In the early days, we weren't allowed to do other things, and it was very much Ken, but now we do other things, and it's nice when they know your real name, but I treat Ken as a nickname.
Has any woman that you've ever been with in a very friendly sense ever called you Ken by mistake?
Yes.
How did that make you feel?
I didn't mind at the time.
I was told of this great incident where a parent at your children's school refused to speak to you?
It was, yeah, I was having an affair at the time. Ken was, I beg your pardon. Yeah, I got this right. And I was dropping my daughter off at school, and the mother was with her daughter. Then her daughter came up, and she actually pulled her daughter away and said, "Don't talk to that man," and went away. However, later, it was a few years later, that mother came up to me, and she said, at the time, my husband was doing exactly the same thing, and it was so raw. But, she said, I have to say, it helped me get through it and come to terms with it. Because in Coronation Street, although a lot of people do naughty things, you always pay the price. That is why it is a very moral show.
Well, how many women are we talking about?
I don't know. I was absolutely horrendous in those days.
500? 1,000?
Could be.
Now, did you or did you not have an affair with Elsie Tanner, Pat Phoenix? Let's go back to where it all started. You were born William Patrick Harry Roach in Ilkeston, Derbyshire in 1932. Your father, William, was a doctor. Your mother, Hester, was into amateur dramatics. So that's clearly, I guess, where you got the acting from, your mum, right?
It wasn't just that. There was something in me that... I didn't want to do what my mother did in the way of being anything in the amateur way. I really just wanted to be in films. I wanted to do things where you could see in the eyes that you meant what you were doing, not declaiming on a stage.
In your first role ever, you were 5 years old. You landed a starring role in your school play of a tree.
Yep.
Was it a wooden performance?
Very. It was also a disastrous performance because my arms got tired, I hung onto the curtain and it came down.
In 1960, you were asked to an audition in Manchester for a new television series set in the north. You nearly didn't go.
I'd had a lead in a play, and the play of the week in 1959 was the highlight of the week. And I was waiting for this to come out. It was really going to establish me in a big way. When my agent said, they want you to go for an interview for this series, and he said, I think it's a comedy, Norman Evans and Over the Garden Wall. I said, don't want to do it. He said, well, you might as well, Bill, there's nothing else happening. So I went for the interview, and then he rang and said, they want you for it. I said, look, how many times do I have to tell you? I'm in London, I've got my little flat, I've got my film contact, my play's coming out. He said, look at this scenario, Bill. You've got a twice-weekly serial going out for only 11 weeks. It's only going to run for 11 weeks. And in the middle of that, this play goes out in which you have the lead, which is what actually happened. And it was a great, prestigious thing. It's just been a very long 11 weeks.
It nearly didn't happen.
You know, it wouldn't have happened if my agent hadn't persuaded me to do it.
Bill, you stayed in Coronation Street for over half a century, and you've had a pretty eventful journey along the way. William Roach was born 80 years ago in Ilkeston in Derbyshire. In 1958, aged 25, he made his show business debut in the hospital film drama Behind the Mask.
I don't get it. We're all here for this one registrarship. I was told there wouldn't be more than 3 applicants.
He spent a year treading the boards in Oldham, and then in 1960, he auditioned for a part in a new TV serial drama set in the north of England.
Once we'd seen Bill on camera, there was ever any doubt for a minute that Ken Barlow would come home.
Coronation Street's gritty realism was state-of-the-art in the 60s, and the series was a runaway success. For the cast, it meant instant stardom.
For the full-scale revelation you want, that's easy. Let's quote you chapter and verse.
There were us, the young ones, and the fame that happened to the show happened to us at the same time, so we sort of grew up with it.
Suddenly, overnight, you were somebody that people stopped in the street and recognised, and, you know, it's a double-edged sword.
Young and famous Bill Roach soon turned into Corrie's heartthrob, on and off the screen.
Of course, in the 60s, Bill was always known as Willie.
Bill Roach has always had a twinkle in his eye.
And a bulge in his trousers, by all that we've heard.
Oh, Bill, forgive me. My dressing room was 2 doors away from his. And there was some action in the dressing room.
Oh, I never knew I could pick and choose like this.
He was very good with the ladies, and not only was everyone aware of it, I think everyone was jealous of the action if they weren't getting any.
But at home, he had a wife, actress Anna Cropper, and 2 young children, Linus and Vanya. Bill had numerous affairs, some with fellow cast members, including, it was rumoured, Pat Phoenix, who played Elsie Tanner.
He obviously did like the ladies, and he did find it difficult to resist. He was attractive to women, they were throwing themselves at him in some cases, and he took advantage of it. I felt in a way it was a pity because he was being unfaithful.
By the early 70s, Bill's wife Anna had had enough. The marriage broke up and Anna kept the children with her far away down south.
I remember the day when they both just told us, you know, we're going to separate. It's just a shock. You can't really understand. The separation was painful from all perspectives, and from my dad's, very much so. Some families managed to do it in an easy way, and this was pretty rocky.
After 10 years of riding high on his success with all the fame and fortune and affairs it brought with it, the marriage breakup and loss of his children hit Bill hard, and he headed into a deep depression.
People go off the edge and go crazy, so the fact that he was even questioning, you know, well, who am I, what am I doing, and what makes sense, and am I really happy, what is happiness, and I think says a lot about who he is.
How do you feel listening to all that?
Well, the biggest regret of my life that I could have done something about was losing, as I said, you pay the price for what you do. Not having those early days with Linus and Vanya and losing my first wife. I deserved it. I brought it upon myself, and I regret that bitterly.
What do you think made you behave like that?
I had the opportunity, but that doesn't mean you should do it. We had a house in London, but I was up in Manchester from Monday to Friday. So the opportunity was there, and certainly there were plenty of girls around who were...
I mean, you were a pretty good-looking guy, I've got to say.
Well, look what can happen to you. But yeah, I shouldn't have done it, and I regret it bitterly. But I don't know. You see, a lot of people talk about men who go off with a lot of women, they're wanting power, they're wanting dominance. Well, mine was I didn't have any control over my sex drive. Somebody once said the day they got hold of their sex drive and controlled it, it was like being unchained from a lunatic. and that's very true. I did, and I didn't have the strength to control that, and I paid a very heavy price.
I mean, were you what they would now call a sexaholic?
Yeah, but you know, they come out with these terms, don't they? I did learn to control it, you can control it. It was a weakness, I think. I was certainly driven and motivated by it to a large extent in those days.
How many, I mean, I know you're probably a gentleman who wouldn't keep score, but how many women are we talking about?
I've no idea.
Prolific period.
I've no idea.
What, 100?
More.
200?
I don't know. I was absolutely horrendous in those days.
500? 1,000?
Could be.
1,000?
I don't know. No, I really...
This is fantastic.
No, I don't... Look, you're making it sound like some sort of achievement, and it certainly isn't.
No, I'm not.
All right, OK.
Just the stats don't lie.
Well, it's not anything I'm proud of, but I've never sat down and worked it out.
Well, let's have a go. We got all night. Come on.
No, because it's not something I'm proud of.
But it could be over 1,000 women, could it?
I don't know. I haven't worked it out.
That's not a denial, Bill.
Well, I'm not denying it, because it could be true.
Now, did you or did you not have an affair with Elsie Tanner, Pat Phoenix?
Define an affair.
Did you have sexual relations with that woman?
Yes.
Wow! Finally! I've wanted to know that for 40 years.
Well, you only had to ask.
Did at any stage you call her Elsie and she called
you
Ken? It wasn't one of those nights?
No.
Role-playing?
I think at that time, she had a reputation and I had a reputation, and she felt we should meet. It sort of, I suppose, had to happen, but it didn't go anywhere.
How many other members of Coronation Street cast over the last 50 years have you had similar dalliances with?
Not going to answer that. I'm just not going to answer it.
A lot?
I'm not going to answer. No, it's no good. No, you can try all your clever little manoeuvres. I am just not in any way going to answer that question.
Well, let's come to Ken's own Lothario reputation, because this is the track record for Ken. 22 girlfriends, 3 wives, including Deirdre twice. And literally, you can't move in the street for bumping into your numerous children, your character. 2 children from marriages, 2 illegitimate children, 1 adopted child. I mean, he's been at it like a stoat for 50 years, hasn't he?
Yeah, he really... I mean, if he was a cat, he would have been neutered, wouldn't he? years ago.
What is the technique to being a good screen kisser?
Yeah, what is a kiss, Piers? It is a...
Well, I'm not going to show you.
It's a demonstration... No, I hope you're not. It's a demonstration of affection, and it should be sincere and truly meant. But you've got to be careful to keep the lust out of it. I was
going to say, well, what happens? I mean, you've got Stephanie Beacham in front of you. I mean, quite hard to control the urge, isn't it?
Well, she's such a wonderful actress, and you can turn lust into love. And you can make a kiss truly loving and truly affectionate without any of that. You can do this, Piers. I'm telling you, it can be done. And you can make it a loving and caring kiss without the lust. And
but how many of the loving and caring on-screen kisses have led to off-screen lust in the last 50 years? Without naming the women.
1.
1? Mm. Oh, well, name it then. Go on.
No.
Is it a secret?
No, you said. I'm sorry. I'm holding you to your word.
Is it something we don't know?
Probably.
Really?
Yeah. And that's as far as you're going to get. You better crack on and change the subject.
No. Let's not be so hasty, Bill. You never bet Lynch, was it? It could have been Deirdre. No?
No, I'm sorry. Look...
Is that a denial?
No, just a minute. You meet these people, don't you? You say, I don't want to do this. And then what do? You immediately start doing it. So I'm not going to say another word. We'll either sit here in total silence or we move on.
Go on, tell me the name. Go on. Would it actually cause any problem if you did? Let's move on, then. To be serious a moment, you said that you found your behaviour through that period, looking back on it, degenerate and everything else.
Yeah. Well, looking back, I didn't know any better, but what I did find out during that period was this does not give you happiness. To love somebody and to make love to somebody that you love is the most beautiful thing in the world, and that is correct. To go off and just indulge it in that way, you will pay a price, and it is not the way. For a while, I couldn't talk to anybody without bursting into tears, and I'd never felt grief as a physical... It was like a physical pain.
Period after your divorce, and you've been depressed, you're drinking quite a lot, and things are getting on top of you a bit, as we saw in the VT earlier. You were recommended by a friend to see a guy called Dr. Morn.
Yes.
Who turned out to be the leader of the Druid Order in Britain.
I was feeling very down, very degenerate. I'd been through all this time that we've talked about, but knowing all the time that it was wrong. Wanting a better life. And I was advised to go and see this man, Dr. Morn, as a homeopath. And I had a dream. And in this dream, Dr. Morn, absolutely vivid, leant towards me and said, why don't you come and join us, Bill? This was a very vivid dream. So the following day, I went to visit him, and as I walked into his surgery, he said, did you get my message?
Really?
Yeah. He could do that. He could do that. There are people, masters and adepts, who can consciously work on a different level, on the astral level, and they can visit. And he did that. He actually could do that.
You've taken flack over the years for this, for people mocking it and stuff, but you clearly got solace from this, right?
it began to ring, it began to resonate with me that this was truth. If you want to find out the truth, you have to lay your beliefs on the ground, you have to refine and improve yourself to the extent that you recognize and resonate when you see a good truth. And that is what I've tried to do with my whole life.
What was the truth you found out about Bill Roache?
Well, first of all, that we are spiritual beings, first and foremost, at the present moment incarnated in a physical vehicle. This physical vehicle we're in to learn certain things. When this body is finished with, we return to the spiritual realms, which is where we exist. We came from there, we go back to there, and when we've finished our cycle of incarnations on this planet and learnt the lessons that we can from this planet, we then carry on in the spiritual realms, getting ever more filled with love and with light. The whole thing is love and light.
You got together with your second wife, Sarah, in 1972. How did you meet?
We were doing an amateur fundraising event for the Wilmslow Amateur Dramatic Society, and I remember during the interval, I asked her where the loo was, and she pointed where the loo, and she said, at that moment, she knew she was going to marry me.
Extraordinary.
I didn't know. She didn't warn me.
Did she know who you were?
Oh, yes.
Why do you think she was so certain?
She was very psychic.
Really?
Very strong. Yes, she was. Sarah would often come out with great things about what was going to happen and what we were going to do. She's a very psychic person, and she was absolutely correct. She was wonderful, very strong, very powerful, and she was very psychic.
Was that the end of your womanizing?
It was beginning. I was ending my womanizing, knowing that it didn't get you anywhere. It does not make for happiness.
Did you tell her about your whole
Sarah
history?
knew.
Yeah.
Oh, she often used to joke to me when we had a totally faithful and wonderful 35 years of marriage, very, very happy. But she often used to say, "You remember what you were like? I know what you were like." And I used to laugh about it because it was definitely gone. It was gone.
After 4 years together, you got married. Sarah gave birth to your first child together, Verity, in 1981. And in 1983, you had a second girl daughter called Edwina. When Edwina was 18 months old, she had a cold, nothing worse than a cold, and you and Sarah went out for dinner. Tell me what happened.
We came back, my in-laws had been babysitting, so they went home. Sarah popped up to have a look at Edwina, and she was fine, she tucked her up. And we made a cup of tea, and then about 45 minutes later, she went up to check her, and she'd gone. She died. And it was just an unbelievable shock, and the grief. For a while, I couldn't talk to anybody without bursting into tears, and I'd never felt grief as a physical, it was like a physical pain. And I knew the funeral was coming up where I was going to carry her coffin. I thought, I just don't know how I'm going to get through this. And on the actual morning of the funeral, I woke up and I know I was awake, and I saw this glory. It was a glory, a golden light, and in the centre of it was Edwina's face smiling. And with it came a wonderful feeling of peace. So I knew she was all right, and it relieved me for the time being of that awful grief. So we were able to get through the funeral, and eventually we got to the point where we could look back and enjoy the 18 months that we'd had with us. I know she's fine over there. In fact, I believe she is dealing with young children who die. People don't know when they've died, and the children are calling for their mothers, and she now is a nurse helping children who go over.
You really believe that?
I know that. I don't believe it. I know that is what she's doing.
I mean, this kind of thing can break up many couples.
Oh, yes, it can.
You read about that regularly. How are you able to avoid that?
People grieve differently. And I think some people just close up and that's it, and the other one maybe wants to talk. That's when you'll have a breakup. Sarah and myself talked. We talked the whole time, and we found the process of grieving was pretty similar. It actually strengthened our relationship because we talked. We were tremendous support for each other during that time.
Let's move from Bill Roache to Ken Barlow, briefly. The most explosive plotline ever, and my favourite, certainly, was when Ken found out Deirdre had been having an affair with Mike Baldwin.
Yeah.
Now, this storyline was so massive that an incredible thing happened. And I remember this, I was watching at the time. Manchester United played Arsenal in the League Cup semi-final that year at Old Trafford. And when Deirdre and Ken reconciled, they flashed it up on the scoreboard.
Yeah, and a great cheer
Deirdre
went
and
up.
Ken are back together.
I know. Yeah, it was wonderful, wasn't it? I think that's probably my main claim to fame.
It must be.
It was
an incredible moment. That's how far it had entered popular culture in Britain.
That was when, and you, I don't know if you were editing a paper at the time, but that's when a lot of papers...
I was 16, Ken.
Oh, I bet.
But, Bill... It's so easy.
Yeah, my own father
Even
did
your
it.
dad did it.
Yeah, Dad did it, so you're totally forgiven. But that was the time when all the papers started to employ reporters just to deal with soaps. The whole sort of soap awards, soap this, soap that, began from that moment when people realised the actual power of that story.
In the 80s, both you and your character, Ken, seem to have found happiness. In 1981, Ken Barlow married the love of his life, Deirdre Langton, with over 20 million viewers tuning in for the wedding. Off-screen, Bill Roache had met and married new love actress Sarah Mottram.
They were extraordinarily close. We both talked about how wonderful it is to find later on, you know, what you've been looking for.
Back on screen, the Ken and Deirdre storyline was the most popular pairing of man and wife in the history of British soap.
Is it serious? I think the on-screen chemistry that we have, it is because we probably have an off-screen chemistry. We actually just get on really well.
No.
The ups and downs of their tempestuous relationship had the nation glued to their TV sets.
Get out of this house! Shut up! I'm warning you, get out of this house!
There you go!
Nothing could have prepared us for the response that we got. People say to you afterwards, what was that like? I don't know what it was like, because you can't take it in.
Bill was at the top of his game. Then in 1991, The Sun ran a story claiming Bill had had affairs with various women, was hated by the cast, and was as boring in real life as Ken was in the show.
Boring.
It's as good a word as any.
I'm boring!
Bill decided to take legal action.
He did not go to war over boring Ken Barlow. He went to war about how the cast don't like him. All these things that weren't true, that were just stated like fact.
As Bill fought to clear his name, it was a traumatic time for the family.
It was what the outside world was doing to my family. That's what really got to me. And I remember standing at the top of the stairs and he just went ashen. He was like absolutely pale, fell down the stairs. Sorry. I got an ulcer with the stress. And it's just things like that. And I just, you know, it's like all these things were really affecting our family and our life. To see that happening and then just the stress that my family were going through financially with everything, yeah, it was hard.
My mother lashed out at a photographer. And I remember reading it, I thought, my God, you know, my friends are going, geez, what's going on?
These papers shouldn't be allowed to get away with it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well done. Right, we're going.
Bill won the libel case and was awarded £50,000, but decided it wasn't enough, so he went to appeal.
People said he was greedy because he was going after more, but his point was to actually fight back.
Bill lost his appeal, and the courts awarded costs against him. The case left him bankrupt and humiliated. In 2009, Bill was dealt another devastating blow. Aged just 58, Sarah, Bill's wife of 31 years, mother of his two youngest children, collapsed and died in his arms at home from heart failure.
Suddenly, this incredible, emphatic, amazing person was just abducted out of life, and we're just left with this sort of huge abyss.
I think he had always assumed that he was going to die before she would, and you know, she was much younger than him. I remember the funeral, and it was a very sad occasion. Although we were celebrating a wonderful life, we were also, you know, acknowledging an early death.
It broke my heart because I knew what it would do to Bill, and I love Bill so much.
I first met Sarah 35 years ago. She was young, beautiful, vibrant girl. And only a few days ago, she was still young, beautiful, and vibrant.
An awful moment in your life.
Literally, we were talking in bed. She sat up, she said something, she just went, oh, and fell sideways. There was no, I have a heart attack. It was just, oh, bang, and she'd gone. There was nothing wrong with her. There was no stroke, there was no heart failure. The chemical impulse to the heart just stopped. And it was just total shock. And then there we were, we'd been completely looked after by Sarah, so we had to pick up, and again, for the sake of Verity and Will, I wanted to keep everything going, and they were brilliant as well. We all just soldiered on. But I know that Sarah is absolutely fine, in fact, better off. She's gone to a much nicer place. We will all meet up eventually. Meanwhile, we've got to get on with things.
It came after this horrendous court case, and it was big news.
It was big news.
This was like the first proper attempt by a major TV star really to go after a paper. The way it played out in the media was that you were suing over being boring. That was the common mythology.
This is what the press almost deliberately did. It was nothing to do with being boring. I would not sue anybody for being... By the way, isn't it a horrid word? And isn't it a horrible thing?
Well, the one thing we've established tonight, Bill Roach, is you're not boring.
No, it is. Well, exactly. But it is. But it wasn't anything to do with... That was like a smokescreen. The things that guy had actually said about being hated by the cast, being up for the sack more than anybody else, couldn't do my job, were proved to be totally wrong.
But tell me this, what propelled you to go on with it? Because most people would say, Bill, you've won, your honour's intact, your integrity's intact, and you got a big fat cheque. No. You know, as some other papers at the time claimed, was part of it just greed? Did you think you'd get a big payback?
They called it greed, but it wasn't that at all. What had happened was, as you know, if you have a libel case, and the paper can put a lump of money up front. If you accept that money, they've accepted guilt, they pay all the costs, and that is the end of it. The Sun had put 50,000 into the pot, saying, that is it, we accept guilt, and here's 50,000. Under advice, they said, no, this is worth much more than that, you should carry on. Let's carry on with the case. So we carried on with the case, and I was awarded 50,000. If they had awarded me 50,001 penny, I wouldn't have had to pay the costs. But because they only awarded me 50,000, I had to pay nearly £1 million costs.
The judge who made that award, I guess, knew exactly what he was doing.
The judge didn't make the award, the jury did. Nobody knows what's been paid into court except the judge and the barristers. So the jury did not know. If they had known that 50,000 had been paid in, and by only awarding me 50,000 I was going to land up with £1 million costs, I don't think they would have done it.
So if they'd given you one
penny. If they had given me 50,001 penny, I wouldn't have had to go into bankruptcy, I wouldn't have had to carry on. That is why I had no choice.
Now let's turn to your current love life. She's 36 years your junior.
She's a very beautiful person, very lovely person. I love her, and she's my girlfriend.
Now let's turn to your current love life, because you're still going strong.
No.
With a delightful lady, Emma Jesson.
Yes.
She's 36 years your junior. Tell me how you met.
We met through my management team, called Champions, and they also manage Emma. So I met her at one of the events there, and then we carried on meeting, and she's a very beautiful person, very lovely person. I love her, and she's my girlfriend.
And I mean, could this lead to marriage, do you think?
That's between Emma and myself. We take it a day at a time, and I'll keep you posted.
Could you see yourself getting married again?
I never wanted another relationship, and I never thought I would have another relationship. And as I said, we're taking it a day at a time. And I will keep you posted in your wonderful mansion in Los Angeles, wherever it is. I will email you on what is happening.
I will give you my email. I would like updates, please. Yeah.
I don't know if we'll be talking after this.
Is life good for you now? It seems to me.
Life is very good.
You've been through a lot of tragedy in your life, a lot of good stuff, but it seems to me you've ended up in a pretty good place.
Well, at the moment, life is really, really good. I could not have better children than I've got, and I'm truly blessed with that. And thank goodness I didn't totally blow the first one, Linus and Vanya. And I'm so fortunate that we all get on so well. I really am blessed there.
Bill, you're about to enter your 9th decade, and you're still living life to the full. Bill Roache is now into his 6th decade playing Ken Barlow on the street.
It's been his alter ego, hasn't it, you know?
At least I've been able to use something from my own experience!
He is Coronation Street royalty.
Here at Granada, he's top dog. He's the linchpin of the show.
This year, the King of the Street turns 80. Everybody's wondering what his secret is.
It's not much different from when I first met him.
I hope to God I look like him when I'm 80.
If I knew what Bill Roache's secret is, I would have grabbed it years ago.
I think it's the hair. Bill's secret is his hair. He can come in a room, flick his strawberry blonde hair, and all the girls like that. Yeah.
In his mind, he's still 18. And I think that is the key, and it's always moving forward. That's the secret.
Bill's new girlfriend is an age-defying 36 years his junior, but that didn't stop him from sweeping her off her feet.
That first meeting, it was breathtaking. He's very charismatic, and he's just got this little twinkle, you know, everybody is very drawn to him.
I don't think the age gap matters at all. I think they look lovely together.
William Roache, MBE, is 80 years old, and he doesn't look it. He runs rings round me. I don't know what his secret is, but he's still got the schedule of a 30-year-old. You know, 5:30 starts some weeks and 10 o'clock finishes at night. You know, it's incredible.
The spring in his steps coming back, this freedom of sort of, you know, that manly freedom. He is a babe magnet, yeah.
Recently, Bill fulfilled a long-standing ambition to work alongside his 2 actor sons, Linus and Will, who goes under the acting name of James.
Us coming together to be in the street it is a kind of symbolic thing, I suppose. We just committed to it without even knowing what we were going to do.
How does a cup of tea sound?
Cup of tea sounds great.
So there I am playing my dad's long-lost son, and Will was my son, which we have a laugh about.
I'm coming.
Good. Yeah, no, please.
As an actor, I never thought I'd sort of get the opportunity to act with either one of them, let alone at the same time. Looks like you've got more than genes in common, Dad.
All right, that'll do.
Linus and I are the, I would say, the legacy of my father, definitely, in the acting world. We're keeping the Roache name going.
He's a role model for myself and a lot of people.
To be 80 years old, to be the star of Britain's biggest soap, I think it's a great credit to him as an actor. I mean, I think we forget soap stars are also great actors, and he is Britain's biggest TV star.
He's gentle, he's kind, he loves animals, he loves toast, and I love him.
A gentle, kind, toast-loving babe magnet. Not bad, Bill. Not bad.
No, it's lovely. Aren't people sweet? I've said some lovely things there.
It must be that wonderful clip of you with 2 of your sons playing in the same scene in The Rover's Return. What a wonderful moment for you.
That was one of my greatest moments, to have Linus, who's so brilliant, doing so well, and young James, who's so good. He's got it all. He's such a good actor. And for the 3 of us to be together there was my dream come true.
It really must have been.
Yeah. Really, really good.
To hear your kids talk about you in the loving way that they do, that must also be a great sense of pride for you.
To see Verity speaking there, young Will, James as we call him, and Linus. I am so fortunate that the wheel has come right round, and I want to be deserving of that and to carry on bonding and keeping close together, which is really wonderful.
Could you imagine ever retiring?
Oh, absolutely not. No.
You'll never retire?
No, retiring is not an option. While I can do it, and while they want me, I have no intention of retiring. I really love the work. I'm very proud of it and hope I can carry on for many more years. It's wonderful when you're doing something that you love and you enjoy, that you'd almost pay to do, but don't let them hear me say that. and you're earning your living at what you enjoy doing.
How would you like your tombstone to read when that day ever comes?
He meant well. near the end, Piers.
We are actually at the end. The only thing I want to say, Bill, in conclusion, is that the one thing I think we have established beyond any doubt is that you are about as far removed from boring as a human being could possibly be.
Well,
thank you very much.
Thank you, Piers. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Turning point, it seems to me. You got expelled from school.
Well, I wouldn't say I was exposed, I was asked to leave.
Did you know that you were stumbling into mental ill health?
I was one flew over the cuckoo's nest, man. I was gone. I couldn't have got no lower.
And as you can see, next Friday, Piers Morgan will be stepping into the ring with the...
William Roache is a national treasure. He's Ken Barlow, for goodness sake.
I'm going to be interviewed by the one and only Piers Morgan, who, I don't know what it is about Piers, but he always strikes me as being a naughty boy. I'm about to turn 80, so I've done a few things, but I don't think I've done anything quite as in-depth about my life as this is.
He's suffered bankruptcy and depression, the tragedy of losing a child, of losing a wife very early.
I'll have to take the rough with the smooth, and Piers won't let me get away with anything else.
He's the most famous soap star in history. And tonight, he's all mine.
Here I go.
William Roache.
That is the name.
Bill. People call you Bill Roache, right?
Please do, yeah.
Or Ken.
No, Bill.
You hold the Guinness World Record as the world's longest-serving soap actor.
Yeah.
Officially. He's number one.
Well, not
he's the top dog.
Thank you. Not just soap, it's drama serial.
Ah, OK. So you don't like the word soap, do you?
No.
Why don't you like it?
Because it's a derogatory term. When we started, we were kitchen sink drama, cutting edge, highly respected. Not a soap.
Have you spent 50 years being pissed off about this?
Yeah, well, for the first 15 years, we were not called a soap, and then suddenly we were. And I tried to sort of rectify it and keep putting it, but I have to accept, I understand now what people mean and what they understand by it, so I reluctantly accept it.
How similar or different are you to Ken Barlow?
Well, in the way of mannerisms and what you see, that is me. And I don't learn anything particularly from Ken, but all I have to do is, like Ken, and get inside his head and believe that what the writers have written for him, he would actually do.
What are his great strengths and great weaknesses, do you think?
I think his strength is that he's a man you could go to for advice, and he would give you, to the best of his intentions, good advice. He's a reliable chap. His weaknesses are, don't trust your daughter with him.
Which, as we will discover, Bill, has been a bit of an issue for you as well over the years.
Oh, yeah, well, yes.
You have
yes.
been a bit of a naughty boy,
I
haven't you?
have, yes, I don't deny that.
Are you going to be confessing all to me tonight?
If you wish.
I do wish.
OK. You're very charming in the way you go about it.
This is incredible. You are, on April the 25th, going to be 80 years old.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. You're very kind. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you're in fantastic nick for 80. I've got to say.
Well, I don't feel 80. I really don't. And the body doesn't quite do what it used to do.
Well, in your case, it's probably just as well, Bill.
I think we're deteriorating rapidly.
Let's take a look back at your amazing career spanning the last 5 decades.
My name is Ken.
Get out!
Ken Barlow.
Well, thanks very much for the character reference.
TV legend Bill Roache has been treading the cobbles of Coronation Street since it started in 1960, making him the UK's longest-serving soap star.
Bill is Ken Barlow, Britain's biggest TV star. It's as simple as that.
He's a remarkable man. He has taught me so much, not about acting or just about life.
Sometimes I stand on set and I have to pinch myself. I'm standing with Bill Roache.
Bill brought 21-year-old university student Ken Barlow to life in Coronation Street's first ever episode.
Sauce, Kenny?
No, no, thank you.
Oh, but I got it specially. You're